Great. So good morning, good afternoon, good day. Welcome to this session of the 33rd BAPT conference and the third online one, the new normal, people type and the post-pandemic world. My name is Geary and I'm on the board of the BAPT. And so it's my pleasure to welcome you to the Temperaments at Work in the Post-Pandemic World, which is the title of Susan and Anne's presentation today. They are based in Canada. So hopefully you didn't have to get up too early to do this. But
no, this is noon for us.
Getting on for lunchtime, I think, over there now.
Yes.
But they're both master level personality dimensions facilitators and authors of a best-selling book, Color Savvy, helping you achieve success in your work life. And they've got a new book out as well, which I'm sure they would love to plug, and they should plug on an occasion like this. So I'll let them talk about that. And I love the subtitle of it, Living Life to the Fullest. So your personality unlocked, living life to the fullest. I love that phrase. So we are in your hands and very much looking forward to everything that you're going to share with us. Anne and Susan, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Jerry. And I will just... So as Jerry mentioned, we're here for Temperament at Work in a post-pandemic world. Hopefully you're all in the right spot. I always ask that at the beginning of my sessions now. I actually had somebody sit through a training, like it was a 3-day training program. They sat through the first half day and then came to me at lunch and says, I think I'm in the wrong spot. So I like to double check that at the beginning of sessions now. Jerry did a great job of introducing us, so I don't think we really need to tell you much more about us. As he did mention, we did just release our second book, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the presentation. We are master personality dimension facilitators, but we're also certified to deliver many of the other assessments, including the MBTI. And we've both got 20+ years working in psychological theory. So we've been at this for a while now. In terms of what we're going to cover today, we're just going through the introduction now. Then we're going to have a little bit of discussion around the trends that we're seeing happening in this post-pandemic world. Now, I know we're not really post-pandemic right now, but you know, the World Health Organization and everything are saying we are now in an endemic as opposed to a pandemic. So really, this is our new normal. We are going to be living with COVID, unfortunately, probably for the rest of our lives. And we've got to figure out how to live with it as opposed to living in this sort of bubble that we've been living in for the last 2 years. I know myself, I'm glad to be able to start getting out and seeing people a little bit more and coming back to life again. And I'm sure most of you are feeling that way as well. We're going to do a small group activity where we're going to get you into your like color groups, and you're a fairly small group. So we're going to see how this works out. We may, I don't know, Susan and I, we may decide to run this as a large group discussion as opposed to a small group activity, just depending on how number of people fall out of this. Then we're going to talk a little bit about the impact of introversion and extroversion from the perspective of where we are moving forward. And that's one of the interesting things about, now temperament doesn't really get into introversion and extroversion, but the tool we use, which is called personality dimensions, actually does have an introversion extroversion component to it. And so that's why we like to include it in our presentations. And then we'll finish off with a quick wrap up. Okay, and you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions. Also, throughout the presentations, you can feel free to put questions in the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, if you if you've got something you'd like to ask, or something you'd like to add, please feel free. We want to make this as interactive as possible. We do have it's nice the fact we are a fairly small group. Sorry, I just got to take a sip of water. That's better. We are a fairly small group, so we can have those discussions as we go through if you'd like. Okay. And what we'd like to start off with is a quick poll. And I mean, I can grab this off of most of you have put your MBTI, but let's do a quick poll and see how many of each color we do have. So the inquiring greens are the NTs, the organized gold are the SJs, the resourceful orange are the SPs, and the authentic blues are the NFs. Okay, right now, golds and oranges seem to be our primary. Okay. And we've got 2 more. I guess the 6 people, that includes us, or if there's anybody who hasn't answered, if you want to put in. I think Renee, you probably should be up there as a blue.
Sorry, I missed the. I can't. It's gone from my screen.
Oh, it's gone?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
gone. I will. Oh, there it is. I think I'm authentic
Okay.
blue, but I didn't read the pre-read. So sorry.
Sorry,
Okay.
I'll relaunch it. So if you could do it again.
No, it's good. I got it. I got it.
I closed it too
Okay.
soon.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. And those of you who were resourceful oranges, if you want to pop it in there. Okay, and Jerry, if I remember rightly from your colors, you are a green, right? So we may, I don't know if you were planning to participate in the workshop, but if you'd like to.
I'd like to, but I can't respond to the poll because I'm running it.
No, that's right. So we know that you're in there as a green though.
Is the bottom authentic blue NT or NF? Sorry, I'm just asking.
Authentic blue is NF.
Okay, thank you.
So you're an authentic blue.
Hmm.
The inquiring green is the NT. Okay, which is good that we at least have one person from every color. So that's perfect, good representation. And as I say, as we start to see, as we go through this, you'll see how it all works out. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and we'll move on to the next slide. And with this one, okay. Okay, Jerry, can you stop sharing the poll? Still up on my, oh, there we go. Okay, I got rid of it. I'm so used to working in a Teams environment. It's been a while since I've done a Zoom, so bear with me if I get a little lost at times. Okay, and I am going to, come on, I'm going to pass you over to Susan, who's going to start talking a little bit about COVID-19 and what we're seeing in terms of trends.
Yeah, so we thought first it might be interesting to talk about some of the trends and then come back to the colors and look at what some of the preferences of the different colors might be on one factor of the trends. So a really extensive study was done by McKinsey, which I believe is active in the UK as well. And they have assessed the lasting impact of COVID-19 on the workforce. And the countries they included were the UK, the US, China, Russia, no, not China, sorry, India, Japan, Germany, and Spain. So they came out with 3 core trends, which if you'd like to go to the next page, Anne, I can talk about.
Okay, oh, there we go.
Well, not surprisingly, their research identified that remote work and virtual meetings are likely to continue, albeit less intensely than during the pandemic. And they assessed 80 different tasks and jobs, and they felt that approximately 20 to 25% of the workforce in advanced economies could work from home up to 3 to 5 days a week. And that would represent 4 to 5 times more virtual or semi-virtual, remote or semi-remote work than before COVID. The other thing they identified is that COVID seems to be propelling faster adoption of automation and artificial intelligence, especially in areas where there is high physical proximity. So first of all, they reviewed 800 executives, and 2/3 of them said that they were stepping up their investment in automation and artificial intelligence. And where they were seeing that would work would be in warehouses, grocery stores, call centers, and manufacturing. But the last point is that jobs with the highest physical proximity are likely to be most disrupted. But it probably won't impact on healthcare, they said, or at least, there might be some things with doctors and nurses, but more primarily, it's going to impact on food services, customer sales, and service roles. And so they're saying that more than half of the displaced low-wage workers may need to shift their jobs. And one of the issues here is that the lower paid jobs are sort of disappearing, often being replaced with automation, so that they may need to be retrained for higher paying jobs. And their statistic they used was 1 in 16 may need to find a different occupation by 2030. So there's a lot of shifting going on. In a minute, there's going to be a poll, but on that poll is another point, which is that there is going to be an expanded role of organizations as a social safety net. And what they mean by that is probably there's going to be enhanced sick leave. This was a big issue in Ontario through COVID because some people had very few sick days. That there would be probably more financial assistance, maybe daycare, maybe really flexible hours. And one of the things that Anne and I learned this week, but also the literature supports that, is that it's going to be hard to retain employees. So you are really going to, as an organization, be very, you got to think of things to attract employees. So if we go to the poll now, we just want you, just to get a little bit of involvement, just want to ask you, what do you see as the prevailing trend in the post-pandemic workplace? I think that's everybody, isn't it? Yeah. So actually, we totally agreed. So we actually thought we'd narrow in on that one. More people working remotely, but definitely, it looks like for whoever said more workers need to switch occupations than before, certainly back that up. We're going to see a lot of shifting in the next few years. So I'll get rid of that poll. And if we could move on. So we're now going to narrow down to more people working virtually, remotely. And so here's a whole load of options, really. And so when we looked at, so we went to the Harvard Business Review for this, and they said there are many options being explored. And surprisingly, the first one, we kept thinking, really? Are people going to return to the office and assume a regular 9-to-5 routine? Okay, I guess it's one of the options. And interestingly enough, I was talking to an organization this week who exactly said there are counseling services in mental health. Their people are going back to a regular 9-to-5 routine because they feel that's the best way to give service to their clients. So some people will make that choice. Another way that this could be handled is what they call a clubhouse. So the office serves as a social hub where people come to, because there is some work actually that you cannot do virtually as well. And so the stuff that's coming out about what you can't do virtually is collaboration, problem solving. I think also sensitive discussions are best face-to-face, no big surprise with that. But in this clubhouse, people would come to do those things like collaborate, problem solve, and socialize. And I think if we've heard anything through COVID, and I've been doing a lot of training through this time, it's the sheer loneliness that some people have experienced working completely from home. So that's another option that you could have. And then they return home really to do the work that they can do on their own or wherever they are. Now, hoteling or hot desking has been around for a while. I think Anne said she's experienced this. Yeah, so this would be that you work from the office, but you don't have an assigned desk. And it could be like you find a desk that's available today. If you have a meeting room will be booked, that there may be phone booths that you go into for important conversations, and lounges where you can do the socializing, do your socializing, eat lunch, etc., etc. So that's another option. And the hub and spoke idea is rather interesting in that there might be still a small head office, but maybe employees work in smaller satellite offices, closer to their actual home. So, head office could be in London, but then maybe in Birmingham, there's a little satellite office. In Bristol, there's a little satellite office, and people rarely have to go into head office. So that's another thought. And then the other extreme of that is fully virtual. Employees work from home or anywhere else they want. And I have been traveling from Ontario to British Columbia quite frequently. And I ended up sitting next to one guy. And I said, "Oh, where are you going?" He said, "Actually, I'm off home to India, but I work in Ontario." So, that's, people can work for wherever they want. And then another flight I was on, there was somebody from Buffalo, just south of us, but his head office was in BC. So, I mean, it really opens the world up if this is the option chosen. So we thought we'd just throw in a little bit of Canadian information. So, Anne, if you'd like to go to, so here's all the options that possibly we could choose from, possibly. So then we just saw this CBC research and Angus Reid survey. So here's sort of a Canadian take on things. So this poll, this research identified that a little under half of Canadian workers could theoretically do their jobs at home. And 1 in 3 Canadians is very passionate about this. They don't want to go back to work, and they said they'd be looking for a new job if their employees force them back. And 1/4 of the people said they would quit immediately because they could probably find a job where they could get what they needed. The last point there, which a point that the research identified, is that if employees get it wrong, they may find it hard to attract and keep employees. And more in our work, we're hearing about employee retention. So I think this is going to be a big issue moving forward. So I hope that's given you kind of a big umbrella look at things. We're going to focus on that whole idea of from a temperament, so now we're going to relate it back to temperament. From a temperament perspective, if you could go to the next slide, please, Anne. So we were going to break you into temperament groups, but that would mean that only golds would be in a group. So I'm wondering, Anne, if we should just chit chat about this.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
I was going to say, why don't we give people a few minutes to think about this? So almost like they're doing a little bit of group work on their own, which isn't ideal, but it's a way to think about it, because this may or may not have been something that you've put any thought into before. But think about it from the perspective of your color. So your temperament. What is it that your temperament would like? What would your ideal work environment look like? So how does that sound, Susan, to do it?
It sounds good, Anne.
Maybe give them, say, 3 or 4 minutes to think on their own, and then we'll just have a large group discussion.
Sounds great.
Yeah, well, we will be going through things a bit quicker than we anticipated, but that's okay. If
Yes.
we get into a good discussion, that's great. Okay. Jerry, it's up to you, but you might want to stop the recording for a couple minutes just while they're doing their own thinking.